For the better part of 2 decades, there was one major player who was, let's be honest, the undisputed puppet master of the silver market. They pulled every string, they dictated the price. But then, in late 2025, those strings were just cut. The most powerful price manipulator in history literally vanished, and they left behind a market in absolute chaos. The story of how and why they did it? Well, that's what we're breaking down today.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What happens when the one entity that has set the rules of the game for 15 years just decides to stop playing? And what if, on their way out the door, they completely flipped the entire board on its head? According to our source material, this isn't some wild hypothetical. It's exactly what has just happened in the world of physical silver.
So, we're going to approach this whole thing like we're investigating a financial crime scene. The main culprit has vanished, right? But the evidence they left behind tells a truly shocking story. We're going to investigate the clues, we'll uncover the stunning twist, and we'll see how their final checkmate move has changed this game forever.
Okay, so first things first, we have to identify our main character in this drama. For 15 long years, one firm, JPMorgan, basically acted as the unofficial but very, very real central bank of silver price suppression. They were the dominant force, the shadow regulator. They were the one player everyone in the market knew you just couldn't bet against.
So how'd they do it? Well, their main weapon was brutally simple and just devastatingly effective: the paper short contract. Anytime, and I mean anytime, real physical demand for silver started to push the price up, JPM would unleash an absolute tidal wave of these paper promises, basically drowning any price rally before it could even start. It was like a heavy iron lid on a constantly boiling pressure cooker.
And look, this wasn't just a quick trade. We are talking about a 15-year war against the natural price of silver. Year after year, every single time the price tried to reflect true supply and demand, they were there to smash it right back down with overwhelming force. But then, in October 2025, after all those years of relentless pressure, they just stopped. Poof, the anchor was cut loose.
The sheer scale of this operation is it's staggering. This was a weapon of market control, a colossal paper short position of 200 million ounces. To put that into perspective for you, that's roughly a quarter of all the silver mined across the entire planet in a whole year. This one position was the anchor chained directly to the price, and it prevented it from ever sailing free. All right, so with the chief manipulator gone, we can finally see the ugly truth about the market they controlled. In that vacuum they left behind, the cracks in the foundation are turning into giant canyons, and all the warning signals are flashing bright red. Let's start examining the clues at our crime scene.
Our first clue is something called the silver lease rate. Now, the easiest way to think about this is that it's the ultimate thermometer for how tight the physical market really is. It's the interest rate you have to pay to borrow physical silver, not paper promises. We're talking the actual metal.
Now, normally, this rate is tiny, it's close to zero. But in October 2025, it went ballistic. It skyrocketed to an unheard of 35%. Let me be crystal clear. This is not a normal market fluctuation. This is a sign of pure, unadulterated desperation. It tells us that the big players are scrambling for any physical silver they can get their hands on, and they are willing to pay almost anything to get it. A rate of 35% isn't just a warning signal, it's what the source calls a 5-alarm fire bell, screaming that there is a desperate, extreme shortage of physical metal. It's basically the market's emergency broadcast system. And right now, every single siren is blaring at once, telling us the system is under incredible stress.
And if you need one more piece of evidence from our crime scene, this is probably the most damning of all. The United States Mint, the official government body that produces the American Silver Eagle coin, has practically shut down production. And why? Because they can't source the physical silver they need anymore. Think about that. When a sovereign government can't get its hands on enough metal for its own legal tender coinage, you know the crisis is real.
Okay, so now our investigation takes a stunning turn, because it turns out JPM didn't just vanish from the scene. Oh no, in what has to be one of the most audacious financial moves in modern history, they completely switched sides. They went from being the biggest bear to the biggest bull, from suppressor to hoarder.
This is the key to the whole thing, this incredible two-sided game they were playing. While they were out there publicly screaming sell silver with that massive paper short position, keeping the price artificially low, they were secretly, methodically, and relentlessly doing the exact opposite. They were using the very price suppression they created to accumulate the real thing, the physical metal, at bargain bin prices.
And this is the move that changes absolutely everything. This is the true scale of their secret operation. According to the source, JPM now possesses a private, physical hoard of over 750 million ounces of silver. That's 750 million ounces.
To really wrap your head around just how massive that number is, just look at this comparison. Their private stash of 750 million ounces is nearly the same amount as the entire planet's annual mine supply. A single entity has effectively cornered a year's worth of global production. It is just breathtaking.
But simply buying up all that metal, that wasn't enough. They had one final, brilliant tactical move to make. This was their checkmate, and it was designed to take the market's entire emergency inventory off the table for good. They did it in 3 steps. After accumulating their massive hoard, they physically removed 169 million ounces of silver from the public COMEX vault. This is the supply that's supposed to be available to the market, and they locked it away in their own private storage. They basically sealed the public vaults on their way out the door, and that permanently changed the game.
And this brings us to a whole new reality. As the legendary metals expert JPMorgan puts it, silver has now become survival money. In a world that's grappling with immense debt and a major repricing of all real assets, silver's role is no longer just industrial. It is now a critical store of value in very uncertain times.
So the great suppressor is gone, and in their place, they've become the world's largest hoarder. With that artificial weight finally lifted off the market, the price of silver is now dictated only by raw, real-world fundamentals. And let me tell you, those fundamentals are explosive.
So what happens to a spring that's been compressed under immense pressure for 15 years when you finally let it go? You get an explosive, violent move upwards. You have surging industrial demand from AI, electric vehicles, and solar colliding head-on with a historic physical deficit. Projections show the world needing 120 million more ounces in 2025 than it can possibly mine. And for the first time in 15 years, there is no one left to put out that fire with worthless paper promises.
This panic is now spreading far beyond Wall Street. Industrial users are waking up to an absolute nightmare. For companies building AI data centers or electric vehicles or solar panels, silver is an irreplaceable component. They're discovering the supply chain is completely broken. And you could just imagine their thought process, right? It's one of escalating panic. First, they realize the world's largest stockpile is off limits. Second, they discover the market's backstop, the COMEX, is empty. Their only option left is to panic buy physical metal at any price just to keep their factories from shutting down.
And that brings us to the final act of this incredible story, the ultimate conclusion of our investigation. We've seen how the master player didn't just leave the game, they switched jerseys. And then they locked the stadium doors behind them, leaving everyone else scrambling on the outside looking in. So let's call this what it is. JPM's Great Escape was never just a simple trade. This was a meticulously planned, multi-year transfer of wealth on a scale we have rarely seen. For over a decade, they profited by selling the world a paper lie, while they secretly used those profits to accumulate the physical truth for themselves. And that leaves us right here, right now, with one final, unavoidable question. We are way past the point of asking if silver will break its old all-time high in this new reality. The source material treats that as a certainty. No, the only question that really remains is this: how violently and how quickly will the final phase of this historic squeeze unfold?